Hey friends, how you doing? This is Chris Jansen. This is the End Evil podcast. Welcome. Welcome, friends. This is the End Evil podcast, streaming Thursdays, 6 p.m. Pacific, and that is 9 p.m. Eastern. Thanks for joining me. This week, I'm coming back to an important topic, and often under discussed topic, and that is the topic of weather engineering, geoengineering, and weather manipulation. It's a topic that I bring up to get your curiosity, to get people wondering, to hopefully to start a little itch in people's mind to wonder, how serious is this problem in the world that we're facing? I think it's one more indication of how evil the world has become and how much of a problem that is. I think most folks don't realize the extent of the problem in the world. But I'm going to start off today by doing a few introductions, a few introductory comments. I'm going to show you some things coming up here. I'm really excited to present this poster made by my good friend Will, who's helping out, a fellow organizer with my friends from the Natural Freedom Alliance. And we're putting together a conference coming up this September 10th and 11th, 2022. This is going to be funnel number 2. Funnel number 2 should be everything funnel number 1 was, but more. The title is Convergence. The idea of convergence is that we need to start working together on this project of ending evil. I want to thank my friends at the Natural Freedom League. That's Will Keller, John Rowland, And I also want to thank Mike Mattingly and his album, The Six Strings of Liberty. You're going to hear some of that. I wanted to give thanks to Mark Passio, send people to the One Great Work Network. And I also wanted to share this cool video called Mother Earth that was shared by my friend Jerry. Here it's Jerry with us today. He's popped in there, and he also shared with me this diesel automatic. I'm going to put the links to these videos so you guys can check them out in the discussion. And this is my website, chrisjansen.com. I'd like you to check that out. What I'm excited about getting a newsletter going. That's something that I want to do to push the ball forward. And so I need folks to get on there and sign up for the newsletter and help inspire me to send that out, because we need to work together on making a difference in the world. Things are getting ridiculous and they're getting worse, and we all need to be the change in the world. So it's up to us. So one thing that we can do is start to network. So go ahead and put your name in on the One Great Work Warrior email list. And I got big things planned for this group. We need to work together, folks. So the End Evil podcast, I'm always looking for people to get involved. Recently, my friend Jerry popped up and he offered to help out, and he had some good ideas for this show. And that's why I have those links to share. And I really appreciate anyone who stops in and makes comments and hangs out for the show to see what we got. It helps a lot to get that involvement going. And I always wanted End Evil to be a community project for other people like myself who care about natural law, who care about freedom, and who care about truth. Yeah, the sign up for the email, you go to chrisjansen.com, and you'll see me jumping in the ocean and my little description of why it's important that we all get involved in this battle. I'll show you at that website one more time real quick so you could check it out. It looks like this. There. Can I get there? Yeah. It says, find your inner hero. We are all enslaved. Nobody is going to free us but ourselves. This will take willpower and initiative. We must advance mentally, physically, and spiritually. Freedom and truth seekers arise. Join me on a journey to destroy evil. We can do this together. Start making a difference in the world. The One Great Work email newsletter is coming soon. So if some folks sign up right now, that'll help, because I'll see it come in my email, and that'll remind me to get on the ball with this newsletter plan of mine. And I'm excited about doing that. So thanks, folks. So I'm just going to briefly give a little description about what got me interested in this subject. I talked a little bit about it last week. And if you look at last week's episode, you can see I shared some different footage and stuff that I collected from the internet about geoengineering, about weather engineering, and I just shared some clips and some research I'd done. I got a message here from someone in Holland. Greetings, thank you, thanks for coming to the show. Appreciate it. And so, the subject of geoengineering for me came up during I was doing research into September 11th, 9/11, and I was trying to understand all the facets of what was going on with that false flag. I didn't know that term at the time, and I came across this video, and I don't actually remember the name of the video. I'll come up with it and post it later, but it was by Dane Wigington, and he's a researcher. His website is geoengineeringwatch.org, and I'm going to share some of his work tonight. He really made a big impression on me because he was such a good speaker to begin with. It seemed like a really far out topic when I first heard him talking about geoengineering. And he was explaining right away that, when you use the word chemtrails, it sends people off down the wrong searching path. When you look up chemtrails on the internet, you kind of get the stupidest end of the discussion. Whereas if you type in something like solar radiation management or geoengineering or weather engineering, you get at the actual more of the data, and these terms lead you more in the direction of research that will give you something worthwhile to speak about, talk about, without just sending people the other way because, oh, you're a wacky conspiracy theorist. And so all I'm hoping and intending to do with this episode is not to convince you the extent of geoengineering or weather engineering, but just to help folks that maybe still have some confusion on this subject, give you access and exposure to some of the things I've looked at, and get your mind wondering on it. And maybe that'll start some discussions with other people, get you thinking about the subject. And this subject, ultimately, to me, the only point of it is to lead towards understanding the condition of the world, that we as humans are being enslaved, and that there is a massive amount of control. And this belief in authority has led to a chaotic situation where even our very air we breathe is likely being poisoned in multiple ways. But we know it is being poisoned even without um, even if you don't believe in the fact that geoengineering is going on already, which it likely, very, very likely is, from my point of view, has been going on for quite some time. But, I can see some people still making the argument that, oh, it's not really going on worldwide. That's not what we're seeing above us in the skies. So, for people that are still kind of making that argument or don't really want to accept or believe that that could be going on, like a massive spraying program, well, I'm going to try to keep showing some more evidence to show you that I think it's more likely that it is. And one thing that I've seen here in California, where I live, is a drought that's been going on, I would say, for about 10 years solid. And every year in the last few years, we've seen worse fire situations, which often get blamed by poor forestry management, which I believe may be a problem. However, often overlooked is what's going on in the skies. What's all that haze? Why is it so hard to see the hills on a clear day? And these questions lead me to which chemicals are being used. When you look at things like aluminum being combined with other nanoparticles, it seems to me very likely that some sort of flammable, toxic exposure could be happening in the environment that could be accelerating these fires. And it seems that other people have done research on these things and come up with, yes, that is probably the case. And if you look at geoengineeringwatch.org and Dane Wigington's work, he's done a lot of tests, and including flying in a plane and picking things up. And he's not the only one that's done these type of tests, but he's posted them all along. He's been running this website for many years. I discovered it about 7 years ago. And so I think it's a real interesting place to look at some solid data and to make some comparisons and think seriously about what this man's saying. And I'm hoping in the future to reach out to him again. Maybe we can get him on the show. That'd be great. But for today, I'm going to run another video I made, and it's of a bit more compilation. It's some work from geoengineeringwatch.org, and I put in some music from our friend Mike Mattingly of Funky Fathers. And so I'm going to play that for you guys. And then at some point in the show, I'll stop and discuss some of these topics some more. And I'll keep an eye out on the chat to see if anybody else has anything to share or any questions or things they want to. Yeah. And Jennifer was talking about the crazy winds. And that was another thing. I can really remember the day I lived in Santa Rosa when the big fire swept through the city of Santa Rosa. It was a event like no firefighter had ever quite seen before, and it was very close to where I lived at the time. And I really remember that strange wind that day. It was a wind that kind of made me go, "What the hell?" Felt like wind was swirling around from multiple directions, and it was sort of warm, and it was just a really odd wind. And I remember noting it and thinking about it, and then later referencing back to, oh yeah, that was right before that big fire and right when it started. So there's a lot of suspicion around all these things going on in the world. There's a recent shooting. Those of us that have gone down these paths of looking into any conspiratorial topic tend to have a more open mind towards how bad the extent of the problem could be and how much things are controlled from some sort of central organized point. And I think the more you look into this subject of weather engineering or chemtrails, you'll see that it's a really scary subject, because not only does it involve the particulate spraying, it involves dumping stuff into the ocean. It also involves using radio waves and microwaving the sky, and even messing with the planet's very vital structure and trying to change the jet stream, for instance. So I'm not the best at describing all those details, but as I keep going through these research again. I'm refamiliarizing myself with the subject matter. But what I was getting at was when I originally discovered this topic, it was so mind bending that I spent like a year of my life just in shock. And I was like having a hard time believing that something so obvious was going on. I never really noticed it until I'd seen Dane Wigington's video, and it was such a shock to me to really start watching and asking myself like serious questions, like, really, do you know what's going on here? Are you jumping to conclusions? I talked to people, I talked to pilots, I talked to a general in the military, I talked to a lot of people about it, and the more I asked questions and really thought about it, the more I came to the realization that most people have no idea what's going on, and they're really not that curious about something that has a major impact on the future of humanity and our own health and our children's health. And that's very likely strong chance. Well, I'm not going to say it's a chance because I know it's going on myself, but that we're all being poisoned from the sky. And so here we are worrying about what's making us sick. Well, how much of that is a factor? Things that are being sprayed in the sky. And here's another point before I start the video. Even if it were for the argument were true, saying that there's no such thing as a global conspiracy to spray particulates into the sky, or if there is, it hasn't started yet. It still turns out that when you look into the data regarding this subject, that planes flying all the time that are leaving what they call persistent contrails, or they used to in the mainstream, is still a major problem because of global dimming. And the more clouds there is sky, it changes the temperature on the ground. And that's been observed after major volcanoes and after 9/11, when planes were grounded, that there's a major temperature differential change due to planes flying or not flying. And so just that alone is something that needs to be discussed and brought up. And it goes to show how careless humans are with new technology. We're just all going to fly around the world, keep flying and flying, whether it destroys the planet or not. I mean, we all get so hot that we destroy ourselves. Wouldn't we stop doing that? Like if you're doing something that harms yourself and you see yourself getting harmed, don't you stop doing that action? When you put your hand on the hot stove, do you just hold it there until your whole hand melts off, or do you recognize, hey, this isn't working? So just flying planes alone seems to be worthy of discussion, and yet that is not in the public debate. But what we're seeing in the skies goes way beyond that, and I'm going to give you some more fuel for thought on that topic, and I'm going to go ahead right now and bring up that little video I've prepared, and at some point in here we'll stop it and we'll start discussing, or maybe I'll wait to the end. We'll see how it goes. We'll see what kind of questions or topics come up in the discussion. Thanks for joining me, folks. Here goes the show I put together for you.
My struggles in life. Oh, wanna buy land, buy seeds, real buy injection that they force into the air, oh yeah. Oh, wanna buy land, buy seeds, real buy injection that they force into the air, yeah. Well, all good people, time to rise. Sound the alarm across the countryside. The lab is coming. Oh, the lab goes to coming. Yeah, the lab goes to coming. Lab goes to coming. Lab goes to coming. Yeah, them lab goes to coming. But we do not consent. We will not comply. We do not consent. We will not comply. In the land of the free, home of the brave, try to enslave, cradle to grave. Yeah, we do not consent. We will not comply. Destroy the proof, bury the youth, try to hide and censor truth. Yeah, we do not consent. We will not comply. Law of exclusion based on illusion. Must have forgot about the Constitution. We do not consent. We will not comply. take. Death to religion and our personal belief. Taking funky sins, there will be no relief. Civil liberties are under attack. Where in the world are the Democrats? No senator, assemblyman, or governor. They all bow down to farmer and they follow the herd. They bow down to farmer and they follow the herd. They bow down to farmer and they follow the herd. But we do not consent. We will not comply. We do not consent. We will not comply. Yeah, all the races, colors, and breeds cannot put us on our knees. Yeah, we do not consent. We will not comply. Your mandatory bigotry. Don't tread on me with your tyranny. Yeah, we do not consent. We will not comply or do no harm. Must disarm all them animals on the farm. Yeah, we do not consent. We will not comply. You are the needle, we are the sky. Injecting poison, you pushing too far. Committed no crime, don't need immunity. Isolated people, we fight to be free. Oh, realize, hypnotized, staying in rectangle eyes. Oh, yeah. Oh, realize, hypnotized, staring in rectangle eyes. Oh, yeah. Injury, can't perceive, claiming it's a fallacy. But the mama know the baby better than anybody else. 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 Farmer ain't a mama, farmer ain't my mama, farmer ain't a mama, farmer ain't my mama. Yeah, mama know the baby better than anybody else. 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 Farmer ain't a mama, farmer ain't my mama, farmer ain't a mama. So I'll never consent. Yeah, we do not consent. We will not comply. We do not consent. We will not comply. You are the needle, we are the scum. Injecting poison, you pushing too far. Committed no crime, don't need your immunity. Isolated people, we fight to be free. Whoa, yeah, turn your blind eye. Whoa, turn your blind eye. Turn your blind eye. Whoa, turn your blind eye. Turn your blind eye. Walk on by. Don't wanna know why the mama cries. So turn your blind eye. Walk on by. Don't wanna know how them babies die. To turn your blind eye. Turn your blind eye. Turn your blind Turn your blind eye. Turn your blind eye. You might see we only wanna live here peacefully and be free. Like somebody, like everybody. Free to be in our community with no bigotry coming down on me. And I love these beautiful families. Yeah, we wanna be free. Is that so hard to see? Yeah, we wanna be free. Is that so hard to see? Turn your blind eye. Whoa. Oh, turn your blind eye, turn your blind eye.
I just wanted to jump in real quick here and point out that what I'm kind of going through here is the history. And one thing you can do in some research is to look up the history of weather engineering. And what you see, there's some pretty obvious things in the history of weather engineering that can't be missed, that no one's trying to hide. One of them is that our military did weather engineering, used weather engineering as a weapon during Vietnam, and multiple countries have used weather engineering. Um, for like China's well known for used it before an Olympics, before Winter Olympics, and I think it went awry and caused a bunch of damage, and so it made the news several times. There's this someone who's come before the um, I think the United Nations claiming that his Iranian political leader claiming that his country has been sprayed constantly. So there's quite a few examples, if you look historically, of things that aren't even really argued about. No one's calling these things conspiracies. They're pretty true. So that's kind of what I was highlighting in some of these articles, but I'll keep letting the video play.
Don't know about our history, turn your blind eye, walk on by. Don't wanna see all them injuries, turn your blind eye, turn your blind eye, turn your blind eye, turn your blind eye, turn your blind eye. You might see, we wanna do it, just be free eternally with sovereignty, integrity, and autonomy, constitutionally, unalienably. Is that so hard to conceive in the land of the free? Is that too hard to believe? Yeah, we wanna be free. Is that so hard to see? Yeah, we wanna be free. Is that so hard to see? Nobody seems to.
Here it says, at a NASA conference in Silicon Valley, Lowell Wood, a former top weapons designer at the Pentagon, lays out an instant climatic gratification scheme to reverse global warming. The plan involves using artillery to fire as much as 1 million tons of sulfate aerosols into the Arctic stratosphere in order to dull the sun's rays and build up sea ice that then could cool the planet. Science historian James R. Fleming, writing in Wilson Quarterly, likens Wood's plan to declaring war on the stratosphere. And that's really what we're looking at, is people that have straight up claimed war on nature itself. And we're the victims of this war. So it's a dangerous time in that way.
Care to share the despair going on around here. As another baby disappears into the atmosphere, it's clear. Nobody wanna hear that, rather leer and cheer and sneer, living in fear.
There's the article I was talking about. 4 hours before the opening ceremony of the Olympics in Beijing, Chinese authorities launched more than 1,000 rockets containing silver iodide into the sky outside the city to keep rain clouds away from the Bird's Nest Stadium. A storm that was forecast to hit on August 8th holds off until the 10th, keeping the crowd of 91,000 dry for the evening's pageantry. Since the invention of planes, people have tried to figure out how to make money off of either stopping the rain or getting the rain to come. And that's just basic common sense. One thing I think about is engineering. We've engineered water, we've engineered houses, we've engineered every aspect of nature. Why wouldn't people try to engineer the weather?
Yeah, they're living in fear of the other, fear of the mother, fear fear of the sister, yeah, fear of the brother, yeah, fear of the mother, fear of the other, fear of the father, yeah, fear of the brother, yeah, fear of the mother, fear of the other, fear of the baby, yeah, fear of the brother, yeah, fear of the mother, fear of the other, fear of the neighbor, yeah, fear of the brother. Turn your blind eye, whoa, turn your blind eye, turn your blind eye, turn your blind eye, turn your blind eye.
In the last episode, episode 1, I spent a little bit of time introducing HARP, the High Auroral Research Program in Alaska. That was actually back from the 70s. And the video I was showing it was basically representatives from different military and Air Force saying they were done doing their work at the HARP program and they were handing it off to universities. So they had upgraded their systems. They had concluded their studies of weather engineering. So obviously they'd been studying for a long time weather engineering using this immense antenna array said to be able to heat the atmosphere to an incredible amount. So imagine now how much further that these studies have come and that people have come. I know that there's sea-based HARP type facilities now, and I strongly suspect that the way that you could heat the air is the same way that you could heat the air inside of your microwave. And that air, if you think it's charged with a bunch of nanoparticles, that could create all kinds of things. It could create a type of antenna, and it could create heat to move a jet stream or to move moisture. I strongly suspect from what I've studied personally, but I've heard other people speak on this, and I'll get more into that probably on the next part of this continual research on this topic. But that's a good question, Jen, about HARP technology working together with chemtrails. I think that's very likely, and probably works together with other aspects of the EMF devices around us, like smart meters. Whether intentionally or not, it's hard to say, but we're in a soup of electrocharged atmosphere as it is, where everywhere around us. And then besides that, now we're discussing how much are we also dealing with what's falling from the sky from what's being sprayed in planes. So that's it's a scary subject. It's a bitter pill to swallow. It's kind of lays heavy on your heart when you start thinking about it. However, it's important that we understand what is going on and that we discuss it. And for instance, if we don't want to be fear mongers and we don't want to scare one another, but we got to be real with one another. So that's kind of why I'm bringing up this topic again, hoping that some other intelligent people will jump in. I want to hear your point of view on it. And we'll compare notes and compare research and see what we come up with as a group. When I looked at this subject by myself originally 6 years ago, I had no one else to talk about it. And now I have a community of people that care about freedom and natural law. And some of us are here today. So let's take that opportunity and put our heads together on this subject and see what we can figure out. So I'll go ahead and play some more of this work. The song part's going to end pretty soon, and then it's going to get into some people talking about the subject.
I see. All we want to do is live peacefully and be free. Like with somebody. Is that so hard to see? That we want to be free. Yeah, we want to be free. Like with somebody. Like everybody. Yeah, we want to be free. Oh, we want to be free. Is that too hard to see? Yeah, we want to be free. Like with somebody. Like everybody. Yeah, we want to be free. Oh, we want to be free. Well, you come know the past wasn't so long ago. A different tale was told. The ancient script had been rewritten. No products are to be sold. Yeah, they got you where they want you. Yeah, they put a spell on you. Yeah, scared by these illusions, this new spooky ad campaign. Everywhere you turn, it's always pounding in your brain. On do not go to beaches, do not breathe the ocean air. Yeah, they stole $6 trillion just to show how much they cares. Yeah, they got you where they want you. Yeah, they put.
Here I was basically just showing you that, you know, if you want to do your own research on this topic, what I recommend is to look up the topics weather manipulation or weather engineering and geoengineering, and look at the history of these topics, and you find a lot of good information that way.
Spell on you. Yeah, they got you where they want you. We're flipping through all them channels, programming mind control. Try to convince the world that the humans got no souls. Yeah, they're only flesh and blood. Yeah, they're only dirt and mud. Our lies conspire to douse the fire, inspire with the breath of life. Yeah, they got you where they want you. Yeah, they put a spell on you.
As you could see here, I ran that same search in YouTube, and there's quite a few interesting videos to be watched there as well.
They're marching doctors with their dangling stethoscopes. Their science
could perhaps afford to buy an Ice Age.
It's extraordinarily cheap. I knew it was cheap when I found that they were quoting me in tons. It's also true that particles, as they get bigger, fall out a lot faster. We sort of stepped back and thought, okay, well, how would you actually make particles in the stratosphere? This is really engineering now. If it was aerosols in the stratosphere, it would likely be put there by airplanes. Start with a fleet of just 2 or 3 kind of modified business jets. The basic idea is that if you let a plume off on an aircraft by just changing some little details, you can actually get much smaller particle size distributions by doing this kind of spraying. So there are all sorts of side effects. I'll get to them in a second, but if you put sulfuric acid in the stratosphere, for example, you could deplete stratospheric ozone. Smaller size means more surface area, but more surface area means less ozone.
Is the stuff in the stratosphere going to be killing some number of people that are going to be sacrificed?
It's an obvious concern.
So if it kills 1 million people and we're only doing 1% more, we're just killing 10,000 more people.
You can do math.
Okay.
But that's, so killing people is not the objective here. So if I made a decision, or if there was a collective decision to do a geoengineering program, and you put, say, the kind of program I think makes more sense to put about 1 million tons a year in, but let's say, you might end up killing many tens of thousands of people a year as a direct result of that decision.
And so the only thing that we can do to cool the planet, or that society can do to cool the planet, is deploy these sorts of technologies.
And by the way, it's not really a moral hazard. It's more like free riding on our grandkids. And it means there are going to be winners and losers, just like there are winners and losers for CO2, but they're different winners and losers. So this makes the problem, if anything, harder to solve. You've introduced another dimension of complexity into the managing the planet's climate problem.
What we're watching financially is a great deal of public policy being promoted on the theory that we have climate change. And yet in that discussion, we never talk about, well, what's all this spraying and how is that involved? Engineering the weather gives you the ability to overcome or prevent droughts. It gives you the ability to inflict them if you don't go along. And the brilliance of inflicting a drought is there's no popular support against you. So this kind of invisible warfare, if it can be done, is very effective, it would seem to me, both positive and negative. Well, imagine if you can predict the weather over long periods of time, how much money you can make. You know, you can trade it. How do you manage money in that world?
Many people message me confused and bewildered as to how it is possible that such colossal programs can occur in skies above our heads, programs of climate engineering and solar radiation management that are literally decimating Earth's life support systems. And these programs are not being acknowledged by any official source, not being acknowledged by the climate science community that has indeed betrayed the human race and the entire web of life by their denial of the ongoing climate engineering elephant in our skies. And the people that message me are perplexed at how such atrocities can be ongoing for so many decades. And we have still official denial, and we have populations that are all too willing to accept that denial. I began to test for some of the primary elements named in climate engineering solar radiation management patents, starting with aluminum, barium, and strontium. When my test came back from the state certified lab, to my dismay, these elements indeed were present in significant amounts, and subsequent tests showed higher and higher and higher amounts, continuing to escalate until one test was as high as 3,450 parts per billion of aluminum. This is highly toxic rain. I knew my life would never be the same because I can't look the other way. It's completely intolerable for me to live under toxic skies. And what about the trees? What about the bats, the bears, the birds, the bees? They have no voice except for us. I began to try to bring this issue to light from that moment on. Initially, few would listen, few would look at the data. But as time went on, and as more and more people woke up along the way and realized the significance of attempting to play God with the weather and engineer Earth's life support systems, more individuals from different arenas joined the effort to try to sound the alarm.
I want to tell you that we're in very great danger from the pollution that's coming down over us. And we've been led astray by the military-industrial complex. And they're responsible for the cloud's creation and weather manipulation programs.
I sacrificed 4 years of my life defending the people of my country just to come home and find there are greater threats here domestically.
There's something going on. I don't know who it is or why they're doing it. All I can testify is it's not natural and it's not normal.
Now, the aluminum content of rain should be 0.
And there's a lot of argument that aluminum is very common to be found, but aluminum is only common in a bonded form. It's not common in a free form, and we're finding high rates of free aluminum.
Because you can spread so many small little particles through the environment, it dramatically increases the surface area that's in that environment because there's so many of them. When you look up at the sun and you see a white haze, that is aluminum floating in the air right now, and it's coming from the aircraft.
Solar radiation management, SRM, to block the sun. That's the stated purpose. The consequences don't seem to be considered with these programs, but that is the stated purpose on almost all UN and global governance documents for these programs.
And in the past 5 years, I have seen the number of patients with Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's, and other neurodegenerative diseases tremendously increase, almost quadruple.
United States code says you cannot experiment on the American public, and if you do, you got to report it to Congress within 30 days. Where's the proof it did that?
But it is also to get the media to start reporting on this.
So all of us have a consequence that we may not be aware of, and it is important for all of us to join together and to put a stop to these programs and to hold public discussions on them for as much as possible. And I want all of you to know that it's important that we realize that this is not normal and natural, that these are programs, experimental programs that are being conducted at this time, and we all have to stand up and say no.
This tank can be used for disseminating all types of agents. Anti-crop spray from aircraft using the Aero X2A has proved very effective in field trials. For larger planes, the Air Force has perfected spray equipment. This B-17 has several spraying nozzles and carries the tank in the bomb bay.
I'm Charles Jones, Brigadier General, U.S. Air Force retired. In the years 1953 through 1962, I was stationed in Germany. Then we moved to England in 1959 while assigned to the 42nd Tactical Reconnaissance Squadron with dual missions of electronic countermeasures and weather reconnaissance. We also had the responsibility of reporting jet engine contrails throughout our area of responsibility in Europe, North Africa, the Mediterranean, and Eastern Atlantic. We were responsible for pinpointing the exact altitudes of all jet engine contrails noted within the flying area of responsibility in both the weather and ECM aircraft missions. We became experts on jet engine aircraft contrails and all of their characteristics. Much different from the white aircraft spray trails that consist of scientifically verifiable straying of aluminum particles and other toxic heavy metals, polymers, and chemical components. These are the long white spray trails that linger and slowly expand into light cloud cover that soon cover entire areas with an overcast, very light cloud cover. We're never going to get to the bottom of climate change until everything is laid on the table about geoengineering and the disasters that it can and is causing.
My name is Richard Rolig. I served a career of 34 years in the United States Air Force. I was able to achieve the rank of Major General. I was in the acquisition business, developing new weapon systems, and did lead one major top secret program for 3 years. During the 10 years I worked at Raytheon, the exposure to various programs was limited to what they wanted you to work on. So even though I still had the top secret clearance and certain programs I got exposed to, that was not one of them. That was compartmentalized as it should be. And unless you had a direct impact or you were personally involved in it, you would not have received that particular clearance. It goes back to around October of 17. I'm residing near an Air Force base here in Tucson, Arizona, Davis-Monthan Air Force Base. Aircraft exiting, doing their flight training, etc. And having lived around Air Force my whole life, my father even being a pilot, it became obvious to me that the contrails that were coming out of some of the aircraft in the local area were not normal looking. They
20 or 30 years to get our act together.
The stated goal of some of the world's most recognized geoengineers, like Dr. David Keith and Dr. Ken Caldera, is to put 10 to 20 million tons of nanoparticulates into global skies annually. That's an inconceivable amount of material. This material is on top of industrialized pollution.
Right? This is about how we engineer the planet. It's about the fact, an uncomfortable fact, but it is a fact, that we have the technical ability to do this. They are all fast acting, they are cheap, and they are fundamentally imperfect. The problems of how you control something where an individual country can have tremendous leverage over the whole planet's climate, and where there are winners and losers in ways that really could be unpredictable. And I mean, not to frighten you, but I think you can imagine scenarios that lead to war.
Another example is the array of technologies, often
cross-border ramifications. You can't climate engineer over your own country without affecting the entire planet. They are all working together on these issues, and other governments around the globe are either actively or passively cooperating.
Is the government experimenting with our weather? People say the government is up there in airplanes spraying all kinds of chemicals to change or manipulate the weather.
It is called geoengineering, fighting global warming by putting a chemical dust in the atmosphere and reflecting harmful radiation back into space.
You could use barium oxide, for example, which makes big fluffy clouds. You could use tiny little bits of aluminum, which is benign in the environment, and essentially manage the climate.
There are 172 bills before the U.S. Senate right now calling for more weather modification programs.
A Weather Modification Act calling for research in, quote, attempting to change or control by artificial methods the natural development of atmospheric cloud forms.
My personal opinion is that we have to keep geoengineering on the table. We have to look at it.
Programs that governments around the globe and in climate science communities have told us are only proposals. Yet, there they were in the skies above me. Even today, we are being told, falsely, by the climate science community that we have one final card to play to try to avert total climate collapse, total planetary meltdown, but this is in fact a lie. Climate engineering, weather modification patents go back more than 100 years, but all available data indicates that programs were first deployed at scale immediately after World War II and deployed over the polar regions in the attempt to increase the size of the polar ice packs and thus try to regulate Earth's temperatures.
It lays the predicate and the foundation for the development of a weather satellite that will permit man to determine the world's cloud layer and ultimately to control the weather, and he who controls the weather will control the world.
Numerous government documents posted at geoengineeringwatch.org, some as much as 800 pages long, prove that global governments, even governments that the public perceives as being adversarial, are in fact colluding and cooperating on the climate engineering issue due to the cross-border ramifications. You can't climate engineer over your own country without affecting the entire planet. They are all working together on these issues, and other governments around the globe are either actively or passively cooperating.
Is the government experimenting with our weather? People say the government is up there in airplanes spraying all kinds of chemicals to change or manipulate the weather. It is called geoengineering.
Yeah, we might think that we're doing something positive for humanity to save our species, but we're also poisoning ourselves.
Eventually, with the team that we formed at geoengineeringwatch.org, we were able to acquire a NOAA flying lab. We were able to test at altitude to confirm the elements that were showing up at the surface.
Our intention was to do a point-to-point sampling mission. We could see these obvious patterns that were being laid out in the sky. We were really thankful for the opportunity to be able to get up to altitude. And on the return mission, we noticed that that cloud layer had descended, and we sampled below the cloud layer, we sampled through that confluent layer and above it.
We found exactly the same elements listed in climate engineering patents, the same elements we found on countless surface tests of precipitation from all over the globe. Governments all over the globe and the entire climate science community are telling the population urgently that climate engineering operations, solar radiation management operations need to be immediately deployed to try to mitigate the warming of our planet, to try to preserve what's left of its life support system. This engine, a high bypass turbofan jet engine, this is the engine that is on all military tankers and all commercial carriers, is in essence a jet-powered fan. 90% of the air that moves through this engine is non-combusted. This engine by design is nearly incapable of producing any condensation trail except under rare and extreme circumstances. And again, we have film footage of aircraft flying at altitude with nozzles visible, turning on and off. That is the end of the argument. Since even before man could fly, there was an effort to try to modify the weather. We have weather modification patents going back 100 years plus.
These are historical films of what can be done with a biplane, a small biplane that carries a very small payload. and that much can be done. How much more can a fully loaded military tanker, KC-10, KC-135, C-17 Globemaster, how much more material can they put in the air? About 500 times more with a single tanker.
In regards
can be done. How much more can a fully loaded military tanker, KC-10, KC-135, C-17 Globemaster, how much more material can they put in the air? About 500 times more with a single tanker.
In regard to back to the trails left by World War II bombers as proof that we are only seeing condensation trails in our skies, but geoengineeringwatch.org found on military archives film footage which we posted of World War II B-17s at altitude turning off a sprayed dispersion. We know that climate engineering was deployed immediately after World War II, so testing was absolutely ongoing. Clearly, these bombers were used for beta testing. Film footage proves it.
Weather was a weapon used over Vietnam. Would you expect that to be then deleted from the availability? No.
They claim the final solution, the only human hope. Or keep you from your neighbors, all muzzled up in the mask. Yeah, you take them off cause you got no cough, but you don't know who to ask. Yeah, they got you where they want you. Yeah, they put up.
So that was the video that I put together of my research from this last week, since last time. And I'm going to continue on this subject, not necessarily next week, but in the future weeks. You know, I'm just going to keep working on this topic. So if you come across some pieces of information or some research that you can share, feel free to go ahead and send it over to me at the End Evil Podcast. My email is always available on my website, endevil.life. And you can send me an email, or you can find me on Discord. We have an End Evil Discord server. And so you can get to that also through, like I described, getting on the email list, which is at chrisjansen.com. So that's pretty much the end of the show for this week. I just wanted to share a couple of my own personal thoughts on some of the things we watched. I really like the point that Jennifer brought up about thinking about the connection between what's going on with the HARP style technology, you know, ground or sea-based antennas being combined with nanoparticulates being sprayed, or sulfur dioxide even, or any kind of heavy metals in the air that are, how do they interact with these other type technologies? And I would recommend looking into Elena Freeland, and she's someone that I think I will bring up in a future episode. She has quite a few books out, and I think I'm going to share those in the next piece of research I put together on this subject and on this topic. So yeah, it's incredible. The more you look into this, the more mind-blowing it is. It's not a simple topic, though. It's complicated. It's hard for people to talk about. But you know, that's like what I like to do, is talk about the things that other people have a hard time talking about. I don't know why. It's just what I'm here to do. And it's part of pulling back the curtain, you know. It's like, hey, you know, what's creating this reality we're in where people don't even understand basic right and wrong. And I think, you know, it's important. One more reminder before we end the show is to remember what's really important, that we really need to change, is within ourselves. You know, I do think that it would be great if we were organized and cooperating well enough as a freedom group and a truth allies, that we could shut down airports and shut down planes and put all planes on the ground. And I think that's possible when people's minds are in the right place and realize that that's important and it needs to be done, that we need to protect the planet. We need to protect Mother Earth. It's our job. We have the responsibility here as to be stewards of this planet. And what we're doing is standing back and allowing evildoers or people that just don't care, or that don't have a heart, to pollute the planet and pollute our fellow human beings. And not only that, but our future generations. and that's costing us big time in our daily energy, I think. So, if there's anyone out there to try to prove me wrong, that's saying this isn't going on, give it a shot. This is an opportunity to reach out and have a discussion on the topic. Otherwise, I'm going to keep going and sharing the information that I've come across that makes me think that we're getting sprayed all the time. And if you live where I do in California, it's like if you even if you try not to watch it, it's become so obvious. And especially more as you get towards the coast, you see even more of the spraying going on, and especially right before storms. And you see an interaction between storms and the material left behind by the planes. And I've taken a lot of pictures of this. And I shared in the discussion there a couple links of YouTube videos, footage that I took myself with my own phone right above my own house of planes turning on and off the spray that's coming out of the back of the plane. And so I don't know how you could possibly explain that with the vapor trail explanation. It just, it's impossible, especially one of the videos I took has two planes flying at the same time, and one of them turns off and the other one doesn't. So that's, pretty undeniable proof. And like Dane Wigington has, his whole website's full of, stuff that's really hard to refute. And I haven't heard anyone really do a very good job at it. There's like Megan talked about in episode 1, the metabunk guy who's always trying to, but he just like really picks on the weakest of arguments and never takes on the more difficult ones. It's always a straw man fallacy that I've seen so far. If anyone sees some real good arguments out there, I'd like to see them. The ones I come across don't have much substance to them. And that's part of what made me, in my process of discernment, come to recognize that this is a major issue and bigger than almost all the other issues I hear people talking about. The future of our very existence on this planet might well be threatened. Wigington is pretty extreme when you listen to him in his week-to-week shows. He thinks we're always right on the edge of collapse, and it's pretty extreme viewpoint, and it can be very depressing. And so I have trouble watching his show a lot because of that. It gets to me. It's depressing, but I don't want to stop bringing it up or thinking about it because it's very important. So I challenge you folks to keep bringing these discussions forward and to keep thinking about what's right and what you can do in your own life to get to the center of your being and be the best you can be and speak out on matters of truth and freedom. Right now, that is really what we can do, is speak out. And that's why I'm doing this podcast. And that's why I'm here encouraging you to do the same, to try to give you the motivation and encouragement and to take the initiative and speak about difficult topics, because that's really what we need to do. Is we need to get our minds in the right place so we can then deal with those topics. And that's going to involve coordinating with other human beings. But first, we need those other human beings to be on the same page and understand what we're talking about. So we need to keep repeating it in different ways until we can get the point across, and whatever that takes. So the challenge is on. Feel free to contact me, folks. I could use your help with End Evil Podcast. Go to endevil.life. You can make a small donation. I'd really appreciate it. I'm working towards now building a newsletter every week, which is going to require more time and energy, and I'm probably going to have to pay for a service to send out emails to a lot of people because the old ones I had really sucked. And so I want to get a better one, and that's one of my next priorities. And so really help me out if you guys signed up on the email list and send me like a very small donation of $1 or something just to let me know you care, and that will help give me the initiative to take my next step forward on the End Evil Podcast and keep working on it. It really is encouraging to see people watching today and to have some interaction. Thank you so much for those of you who came and shared. I appreciate it. So have a good week, folks, and we'll come back to it next week. I think next week I might have a special guest. That's the plan. I'll make that announcement as soon as I know for sure. But otherwise, we'll keep going on this topic. And I have some great interviews saved up. I'm excited to share with you in the future too. So have a great week, folks. Do the best you can. Take care of yourself. you got to really be aware of your own health these days and work on putting a lot of good medicine inside of your body, whether that's herbs or detox. And that's something I hope to talk about in the future, is how to stay healthy and how to take care of our body in a world that's so contaminated. So that's future topics for discussion as well. But I'm going to go ahead and close up and put on my end like commercial here and roll on out. And then I'll see you guys next week. Thanks for coming. Hello, this is Chris Jansen. Welcome to the End Evil podcast.
It was a crazy year, 2020. I think everybody kind of was losing their mind one way or another. But if you're listening to this, you made it through.
And they're making mistakes, and people are starting to awake.
There is a science of human freedom.
It's also a spiritual journey.
A person under hypnosis will start to see that there's something wrong. Something is wrong.
It's great that you know what you've come to know, but until there's an outlet for that information and you start creating and putting your creations out into the world to teach other people so that they can become as knowledgeable as you.
Life. What is encouraging life is good. That which takes away from life and growth and creativity is not good.
Hello, this is Chris Jansen. Welcome to the End Evil podcast.
It was a crazy year, 2020. I think everybody kind of was losing their mind one way or another. But if you're